Nanase wasn't investigating Ayanokoji because she thought he was dangerous. She was investigating him because she needed to answer a question that terrified her. If becoming perfect means becoming like Ayanokoji, is it actually worth it? At first, that probably sounds like a stretch. After all, during the second-year island exam, Nanase is introduced as someone sent to expel Ayanokoji. She's constantly watching him, testing him, gathering information. Everything about her tells us she's another enemy, and honestly, that's exactly what the story wants you to believe. But if her goal was simply revenge, something about her behavior doesn't add up. The more she learns about Ayanokoji, the quieter she becomes, more observant, more hesitant. If you were trying to defeat someone, every new discovery should make you more confident. Instead, Nanase almost looks unsettled. That's the first clue. Then comes the moment that completely changed how I looked at her character. During the island exam, when she's pushed into a corner, something strange happens. Her posture changes.
Her tone changes.
She begins speaking almost like Matsuo. Most viewers see this as another personality taking over, or simply a dramatic power-up, but I don't think that's what's happening. I think it's something much sadder. It's as if, standing in front of someone like Ayanokoji, Nanase no longer believes her own identity is enough. So her mind reaches for someone she associates with strength. She borrows Matsuo's voice like armor, not because she wants to become him forever, but because, in that moment, she doesn't know if being herself is enough. And once you notice that, every interaction she has with Ayanokoji starts feeling different. Maybe she isn't collecting evidence against him. Maybe every clue she's gathering is actually about herself. Because Ayanokoji isn't just another student. He's what happens when a human being is pushed to the absolute limit of efficiency. No panic, no unnecessary emotion, no wasted movement. Every decision feels calculated. For most students, that's terrifying. For Nanase, it's fascinating. But fascination isn't the same thing as admiration. You admire someone because they're impressive. You study someone because they represent a future you might become. And I think that's what Nanase is really doing. She's not asking, who is Ayanokoji? She's asking, if I keep walking this path, do I end up like him? That's a much more frightening question, because Ayanokoji is almost like a finished product. He's calm, brilliant, nearly impossible to manipulate. But every finished product has a manufacturing cost. Think about him for a second. He can read people better than they understand themselves. He rarely loses control. Almost nothing surprises him. But what has all that perfection cost? Real emotional expression, spontaneous relationships, the freedom to simply be a normal teenager. Even when he smiles, it often feels measured. He's incredibly capable, but sometimes he barely feels human. Now go back to Nanase. Doesn't her hesitation suddenly make more sense? Maybe she's not wondering whether Ayanokoji is dangerous. Maybe she's wondering whether becoming like him is survivable. There's an interesting psychological idea behind this. When we're uncertain about our own identity, we often become fascinated by people who represent the version of ourselves we could become. Not because we necessarily want to copy them, but because we're trying to understand what that future would cost. You could think of it as holding your future self at arm's length and quietly asking, if I become this person, will I still recognize myself? That's why I love one simple image that keeps appearing in Nanase's story. Every clue she collects isn't evidence against Ayanokoji. It's a mirror she's holding up to her own future. And honestly, we do this all the time. Think about the people you admire online. Successful entrepreneurs, elite athletes, creators who always seem disciplined, top students. At first, you copy their habits. You wake up earlier, you organize your day, you become more disciplined. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes the copying doesn't stop there. People begin copying the personality too. They stop laughing as much because serious people look successful. They hide their emotions because vulnerability looks weak. They start speaking differently, acting differently, even thinking they're supposed to become colder. Without realizing it, they're no longer building themselves, they're replacing themselves. That's why I think Nanase is one of the most misunderstood characters in Classroom of the Elite. She isn't asking, How do I become like Ayanokoji? She's asking, what would I have to lose to become like Ayanokoji? Those are completely different questions, and maybe that's the real lesson her character leaves us with. Learn principles, not personalities. Discipline is worth learning. Emotional control is useful. Clear thinking matters. But someone else's identity doesn't belong to you. Whenever you admire someone, don't just ask what they've gained, ask what they've sacrificed. Because every strength has a price. Confidence can become arrogance. Logic can become emotional distance. Ambition can become isolation. Growth isn't about copying an entire person. It's about choosing which pieces deserve a place in your own identity. Maybe that's why Nanase's story feels quietly hopeful. The fact that she's still questioning, still observing, still searching means she hasn't abandoned herself yet. She's trying to become stronger without disappearing in the process. And maybe that's a better goal than perfection ever was, because becoming better has never required becoming someone else. It only requires having the courage to decide which parts of yourself are worth protecting. There's another classroom of the elite character who answers this exact question in the complete opposite way, and their psychology is even darker. If you enjoy looking beneath the surface of anime instead of just watching it, consider subscribing. There are a lot more stories hiding in plain sight.